Welcome back to Challenge Dubai. My name is Bob Babbitt, and we're talking about entertainers of the world. You've got one-named people like Madonna. You've got Pele. You've got Prince. In the world of triathlon, our one-named athlete and one-named CEO of Challenge is Zibi.
Thank you for this amazing introduction, Bob.
Zibi. That's what you got to say.
Thank you very much.
4 letters, one guy, CEO.
Simple, straightforward.
4 letters, and then CEO. You got 7 letters, period.
Right.
You don't have to worry about anything
Explain
else.
everything.
I love that. So we are
much.
here at Challenge Dubai, and I think people get to a point where they go, new events, great new events. You just had Bahrain, and then you have Dubai, and then you've got Oman, and then you got Bahrain again. This has changed the world of triathlon because of the prize money, because of this part of the world. Talk a little bit about how excited you must be just seeing what's happened in the last year.
Yeah. Well, actually, we Challenge Family are a global brand. And,
Right.
And of course, the Middle East is a critical part for our development moving forward. I mean, we have a great presence in North America, South America, Europe, Australia, Asia. And, kind of our natural development was to look for partnerships and opportunities in the Middle East. And of course, with Challenge Dubai, I think we introduced a game changer into the sport. It brought the sport of professional athletes into the next level.
Yep.
With the not only with the prize money, but also with the quality of the race, from live coverage, from the reach out in a from the media perspective, and also for the age groupers. I think it was everyone who joined us for Bahrain came back home and was, wow, this was pretty amazing. I mean,
Dire Straits, Akon, riding on a Formula One track, running through a wildlife sanctuary. I mean, every aspect of it. I look at races and I look at iconic courses. You think about the Beast with St. Croix, or the swim with Alcatraz, and the sand ladder.
Right.
When you look at the Bahrain race, you had the beautiful downtown swim, and you had the bike ride that ended up on the Formula One track and closed a major highway. Then the run was through the wildlife sanctuary with ostriches running in front of the athletes.
Pretty amazing,
visuals.
Right?
Visuals are really important. Were you concerned with Bahrain? Obviously, human rights issues. People were talking about that before the race. Was that a concern for Challenge?
Well, of course, we are listening to everything what's happening across the globe, and we look into those things very, very seriously.
Yeah.
But on the other end, I think sport and sport of triathlon in particular have an amazing chance to build bridges.
Right.
And I think sport and triathlon unite people, and we saw it in Bahrain. We had 52 nations on the start of this race, and outstanding quality, very, very welcoming people of Bahrain. So I think this is what we have to focus on. I mean, we can't change the world, but we can help to build bridges, and I think this is the best way moving forward. We had over 200 women's racing in our race. We had a women's race only also in Bahrain, where people just kind of surprised.
Right.
And don't forget that Bahrain is the only country in the Middle East having our own parliament, a voted parliament. And I think from the democracy standpoint, the most advanced country in this region. And it's a funny thing because people tend to say just take the Western approach and look at the things and judge. I mean, how many years, how long it took in U.S., in Europe, in Germany, in Austria, in France to get where we are from democracy and from human rights perspective. And I mean, this region just started 30, 40 years ago from scratch. So I think we should probably really, consider those things, and it's a progress. It's a progress, and what we have experienced in Bahrain was amazing warm hospitality and service at world-class level. And I think that's what athletes took back home. And as I have said, we are here to build bridges.
What I love about the sport, and you and I have shared this before, is you could look at the sport, and as an athlete yourself, it can be a very selfish sport, right? You're out there running, you're out there swimming, cycling, you're away from your family, you start doing it on your own. What I love about what they're doing over here, they have a problem with childhood obesity. They have a problem with diabetes. Exactly. They are using this sport of triathlon to try to change the next generation by saying, this is a pretty sexy, fun sport. Let's get involved. When I was over last year for the Yaz event over in Abu Dhabi, they used that track. Right? The Formula One track, and it's open to anybody, and they can use bikes on Tuesday night. Women who are not allowed usually to participate in that type of thing can train on a Wednesday night. So they're using the sport to change
Behaviors.
change behaviors for the better.
Right.
And that has to be, being the challenge family, you're always looking for the other side of the sport. And it's great that you can get a PR, but the other side of it, can you help change a problem through the sport?
Absolutely. And when we started the dialogue with the partners from Bahrain, we listened carefully. What are the objectives behind it? And, in case of Bahrain, His Highness Sheikh Nasser Al Khalifa, he's athlete himself. And
he's endurance horse racer, everything.
Right. He talked to us about obesity issues, about his plans to developing a number of programs moving forward for the 10, 15, 20 years ahead, changing the behaviors of the Bahraini populations. And our brand is Challenge Family, so we cannot run through the world and be egomaniac and look only at those who want to achieve the best. We are here to help the whole families,
right.
And if we can change a little bit and add a little bit of value, that's I think our responsibility.
So when I look at Challenge, and I look at Challenge Roth as sort of the signature event, and besides the Ironman World Championship in Kona, and people might argue about this, I look at that as the number one race in the world with 30-some years of history, and Challenge Roth is the second most important race in the world because of the depth of the field, 5,500 people, the scenery, the solar hill, all of it. With those two events being the signature events in our world, and those two brands being probably the two most important brands from a long distance perspective, what is the relationship at this point with Ironman and Challenge in terms of growing our universe of triathlon?
Well, first of all, as you have said, Roth is simply amazing event.
Yes.
We have next to almost 6,000 athletes, 6,000 volunteers, 250,000 spectators, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think also Roth is hosting the biggest industry trade show with 180 exhibitors at the expo.
Oh
so
my, that's crazy.
Pretty amazing. And talking about the relationship, we are carrying a lot of respect for the brand of Ironman.
Sure.
Do I agree with the way how brand is run by the people? I will doubt it.
Not so much.
I think it's not adding a lot of value to the whole picture of a sport in general. I mean, as you know, we lost 6 of our races out of existing contract.
So they were challenge races?
Yes, challenge races with existing and pending contracts where WTC stepped in and bought them out. So it's kind of mixed feelings because I think, we need to carry a bigger picture. We are responsible for the sport of triathlon, as you have said. Challenge and Ironman, are two biggest
two iconic brands.
Yes. So I think this is what refers to challenge. We are focusing on a bigger picture. We want to grow the sport. We want to add value to grow process.
Yes.
We want to create platforms for athletes, for industry, for the media, which help us to reach the next level.
Sure.
We have to always put the things into perspective. Triathlon is still very, very tiny sport.
So small.
So I'm absolutely against wars or against fights or against anything, and we really need to focus on developing the sport. So
it's funny because in the early years of developing the sport, you were a power bar, I was a competitor, John Duke was a triathlete. And obviously, you're competing from a magazine perspective, but we all understood that a high tide floats all boats. It was like if we all work together, there'll be a bigger pie for everybody. Yeah. Sure, Power Bar would have liked to be the only bar, but it was important to get Cliff Bar, Balance Bar, and other bars like that, and to get a category at the grocery store.
Exactly. And, if you have one player, there is no category.
Exactly.
So it's a simple thing. And I think we are sitting in the same boat and we are carrying jointly responsibility for the sport.
Yes.
Athletes, industry, media, race organizers, federations,
Yes.
ITU, ETU, we have a great relationship with those guys. And we have to jointly develop programs to get to the next level. Our sport is amazing. And I think this is a fascination of triathlon to any triathlete in the world, and also people who are not involved in the sport. We not train triathlon, we not race triathlon, we live triathlon.
That's a really good point.
And that's a big difference to many sports.
Yeah, for a lot of folks who just go out and run a 5K or 10K or half marathon or marathon, it's not really who they are. It's an activity. Absolutely. They go out and do it and get their medal, and they sort of move on and find another event. Right. Where it seems that people who are in the triathlon, it's your brand. That's your life. That's who you are and what you do.
I really think that we're like a independent nation. We're just really unbelievably unbelievably focused, determination, all of the inspiration we're providing to others is just pretty amazing. And so we simply at Challenge, all of our people working at Challenge are triathletes.
Yes.
We just love the sport. We just really, really love the sport.
So the other side of this is when we came to Bahrain, you brought over, 80 to 100 pro athletes, put them up, fed them. I mean, it changes the game for an athlete. For a lot of athletes, if they're going to a race, they're going, okay, it's going to cost me this much for air, it's going to cost me this much for hotel. If I finish 8th in the race, I'm going to lose money by coming to this race. Right. You've put people in a position, these pros, and we hear about the Chris McCormicks and guys who make a lot of money. The majority of our pros are living hand to mouth and hoping to pay the rent, right? So you're putting people in a position where they're getting their way. They're getting here. Now it's up to them to produce. Right. But they're going, hey, thank you for getting me here, because at least if I perform, I'm making money. I'm not worried about having to break even or just to lose a little bit by being successful. Right. That's a big part of what you guys are about.
Absolutely. I mean, you have referred to the lineup of the pro athletes. I think this is the best lineup in the history of our sport.
Yeah, it's a
if
great
you take
race.
The Olympic distance athletes, middle distance athletes, and long distance athletes, I think this is unbelievable what we have racing here in Dubai and in Bahrain. And the pro athletes are just the icing on the cake of our sport.
Yes.
And I think we just it's our responsibility to provide them a platform where they can express their best in terms of performance, but also earn money for living.
Right.
And luckily, we have the chance to evolve those things and develop those things forward and provide those guys platforms.
Way to make a living.
Absolutely.
So you look at, and you knew track and field before all of this, and a lot of those guys, once their Olympic experience was over at 5,000, 10,000, they were done. They weren't going to be able to go make a living running the roads. Where Javier Gomez, you silver medalist, Olympic format, Olympic distance, and then he steps up and he wins 70.3 Worlds, is focused this year on $1 million, the Triple Crown. Guys like him coming in, Jan Frodeno coming in, how does that change this sport? As you're an endurance guy and you're a fan of the sport, bringing that speed, that raw speed into this world is going to change everything. In my opinion, it's going to change the game.
Absolutely. And I think in life, in any part of our life, there is no steady state. There's always a progress.
Right.
And I think guys like Javier, by the way, I think really that Javier in particular, he's not only an athlete, he's an amazing ambassador of the sport.
Absolutely.
And those guys are changing behaviors, changing training and preparation structures, changing speed, changing times, changing the dynamic of the sport, which is great, fantastic. I really, really love to see Javier and Jan and Michael Rellet and Andy Dreitz just
all
really adding that. I mean, we saw Andy Dreitz racing the 90K in 1:57 in Bahrain, 46K average. Blown me away.
It changes the game.
And I think, Javier may run, 107, 105.
On this course, he could.
So it's pretty special time what we are seeing right now.
When you're in Europe, when I come to Germany and talk about Challenge, everybody knows Challenge. In the U.S., you have Challenge Atlantic City and you have Rancho Cordoba. And then you bought you're working with the Rev 3.
We haven't bought anyone.
You haven't bought any, no.
We create a partnership.
You have a partnership, and those events are now all Challenge. You mentioned last night that since those events became Challenge events, that the registration has gone up significantly.
Yeah, we are very, very happy about the development. I think really that, naturally Europe was kind of a birthplace, in Germany in particular, as for the brand of Challenge. And we're a young brand. We're only 10 years old. The race in Roth started the whole thing, and it's a process. And we started literally the process probably 3-4 years ago, where we kind of look at the situation, talk about the strategy moving forward. Where we defined that our objectives is to become a global brand and develop the sport of triathlon, help to develop the sport of triathlon. And of course, this is a working process. We do not have private equity in our back.
I was going to say, to a certain degree, you're competing with private equity funded
Right.
events, right?
Yeah. Well, it's, of course, from the growth speed, growth perspective, money changed the things significantly.
Absolutely.
And you see this with Providence and WTC. In our case, it's all organic growth.
Yes, it is a family business.
Absolutely, it's a family business. But this is the beauty of it. We are free. We can decide whatever we want.
You don't have to ask a board.
Exactly. So we are. Board is
you.
Four of us.
You
we
and
are sitting
Felix.
together. Yeah. So this is great, and I really think that we just hit the sweet spot in North America, in
Yes.
the U.S. in particular, bringing a completely different way of experiencing triathlon. It's a family event. It's a festival.
Yes.
It's a more like a happening.
Right.
It's like in some cases Woodstock of
It
the
is,
sport.
yes.
And I think this is what people are really waited for. And
Yes.
we see, as you have said, tremendous growth of our events across
Yes.
across North America. And hopefully, I know one for sure. This will not change from day to day, but it's a continuous progress. And for us, most critical is we are growing, and we are growing healthy. That's
When you talk about these events, and you've been obviously to events for years and years and years, and people forget sometimes because you're putting up cones and you're blocking things off. These weekends, these festivals, it's a party. Right? People are spending money to get up at 3 a.m. to come to something because they want to, right? They're excited about it. So talk a little bit about when you come to these races, because you guys at the end of the day, you spend a lot of time organizing it,
Right.
and sometimes you sort of forget how impactful these events are for the average person who's doing something they never thought they could do. There's people out here tomorrow are going to be finishing this race, and they're going to be tearful to finish. They're going to be looking at this going, this changed my life. How
Right.
important is that to you?
Well, actually, strategy of challenge is pretty simple and straightforward. We are not producing event. We are leaving long and lasting legacy in the regions and other places where our races take
Yes.
place. So our incorporation of the local community, local businesses,
Yes.
it's absolutely critical. So we are not kind of getting there, producing, disappearing, and see you next year. So I think this is very, very critical. And you see this, the perfect example is, of course, Roth, where the community is owning the race. It's not about
Yes.
us owning the race. The community is just rocking the
Right.
world. And I think if you bring so many positive aspects into the community, people are definitely willing to take a little bit disadvantage in terms of traffic and in terms of impact for daily life,
Yes.
and really celebrate with us. And we are providing at all of our races, a volunteer party, a simple thing.
Oh, but it makes a big difference. Those people aren't looking for money.
Absolutely.
They're looking for
Recognition.
Exactly. They're looking for someone to appreciate
Yes.
the fact that they're taking their time
Yeah.
to come out and help your event.
I think they are simple things, like we are having frequently meetings with our race directors, and one of the things what we request is you have to go to every single volunteer and say thank you. You have to go to every single exhibitors and say thank you and welcome them.
Yes.
I think it is critical because, as I have said, we are all sitting in the same boat,
Right.
and paths are crossing many times in life.
Yes.
And the most expensive advertising is word of mouth. And your great friend Peter Henning, who is
Yes.
working with us, said, I think 2 years ago to me, Zibi, do you know what's the greatest value of challenge? People love the brand, love the people, and people said only positive things about
Right,
challenge.
right.
And I think that's the greatest value of our brand.
It really is. Zibi, thanks for all your hospitality. Thanks for what you're doing here. I think it's funny. I was just talking to Pete Jacobs, and he was saying, I don't even know if I'm going to get to America this year because you're changing what used to be, and after October, there was really nothing for the pros or for the world of triathlon. And now it's become a 12-month world where a pro could go out and train and race all year long, and they have to make a decision, what am I going to focus on? Which is great. They could come over to this
Absolutely.
part of the world, focus on these 3 races, even if they don't win. And like we talked about, it's you've got the $1 million out there for someone who wins all 3 races. But if somebody finishes 3rd in all 3 races, they're walking away with some big dollars.
It's solid
And
money, yeah.
changing the fact that someone from Australia doesn't have to come and train and live in the U.S. and try to make a living anymore. They can focus on different parts of the world to make a living.
All right. Yeah. Well, we are 365 days a year series.
Right.
Challenges providing every month a race across
Yes.
the globe. And I think this is critical for the sport to provide athletes from different hemispheres.
Right.
You know, they are, as Mikey Relitz commented yesterday
Yeah.
at the press conference nicely, that this is kind of a fight between Europe and Australia,
Yes,
and
yeah,
Australia
yeah.
coming from the seasons and
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Europeans from the winter. Now we are having, 365 days a year chance
It's changing.
to... Yes.
Sport is
so I
changing
think-
significantly.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And you guys are a big part of it.
well,
Congrats.
hopefully we are adding a little bit of value to the growth of the sport.
Love it.
Thank you very much for having me with you.
I love it. I love having, we've had Madonna on, and we've had Pele on, so we've had Prince, and now we've got Zibi. So now all the one-name people in the world have joined us. And again, we're at Challenge Dubai. My name is Bob Abbott. He is the one-word guy, Zibi. Hold on, everyone. We'll be right back.
Thank you very much.